How can veterinary teams utilize client communication to support spectrum of care?
When I think about that communication toolbox, there's so many skills that we could apply. I think the ones that seem to hit the nail on the head the most are open inquiry and transparency. We have to be open to also soliciting or eliciting our client's perspective. What I mean by that is we really need to ask those open-ended questions that get our clients to share their story and to get them to share openly with us. And that means if we're asking them to share, we need to be prepared to hear them out. It can't be just, oh, I'm listening, and then we really aren't, right? We have to tune in, and I call it power down and tune in, which basically means we're eliminating distractions and really focusing on those words and the nonverbals in front of us. And if we communicate to clients that there are choices, then we really have to be prepared to let clients make those choices, right? We have to set them up for success. And we do that by soliciting input, right? What are their needs? What are their wants? What are their expectations? Are those in alignment with our own? In any conversation, there's going to be overlap between their needs, wants, and expectations and ours. And there are going to be gaps that we need to bridge. So it's up to us to really work together to find that wiggle room. And we have to reflect back that level of understanding. So I use a lot of the phrase, what I hear you say is ... And then I reflect back to our client, what do I think I hear? What do I think they're prioritizing? What do I hear that's important to them? And am I understanding them correctly? Maybe yes, maybe no. So in addition to reflecting that back, I need to let my clients clarify because they might need to revise. They might want to refine what they said. They might even need to correct us. They need to feel free to say, you know what, doc, you got it all wrong. And rather than us get defensive, I think even I felt that knee-jerk gut reaction sometimes to be defensive. We need to be able to take a breath and just be able to be willing to say, then help me get it right. What did I miss, right? What do you need to share to me that's going to help us move forward on whatever care your loved one needs? Those are really the kind of most important communication tools that I would start with. And then, of course, we can broaden and expand depending on our strengths and what areas we feel best about in our communication window.
How can using the word capacity be helpful?
Capacity is not a word I made up. It's a unique term that I stumbled across, and I can't even tell you where I saw it, who I first read it in the context of. But I knew when I read it, I was like, wow, that really resonates with me. And I think on the surface, we all have kind of a basic baseline understanding of what capacity means. But until I actually experienced it, until I actually got kind of all in, knees deep, and you're really wading out there in the deep end of the ocean, I never realized just how essential it is to understanding our clients or ourselves and paving a way forward. I think, as is true of most things I've learned in life, I've learned them best when I'm in the driver's seat, actually experiencing it. And so I like to think I gain wisdom and I just show up and be the DVM and come with all the wisdom attached. But actually in my life, it often works the other way. When I'm on the other side of that exam room table, whether it's in my role as a veterinary client or in my role as a human patient, I actually have learned more. Those experiences have taught me more than being a doctor ever has. And for me, capacity has a really personal tie that I'm willing to share. Some of you know, many of you don't, but in 2024, I received an unexpected diagnosis. And essentially what it meant was I was losing my eyesight acutely and steadily. And when I met with my optician, I was told that without corneal transplants, I would go blind. And that's not easy news to hear. It kind of stopped me in my tracks. To be honest, I probably lived a month or two in shock. because I just couldn't grapple with what that would mean. I felt lost as a patient. I didn't know how to be heard. I always felt I was a really good advocate for myself. And then I lost my sight, and suddenly with it, it was 10,000 times harder than ever before to be heard, to be seen, right? All the tools, resources that I'd used before, like searching on PubMed, finding out information, suddenly all of that was inaccessible to me. I felt lost, ignored at best, misheard at worst. And with each encounter where things went wrong, right, I looked at it as, in retrospect, each encounter did not fill my cup. So I had one bad encounter, then another, then another, then another, and picture a cup with a hole in it, right? That cup is starting to run out and run low. And that cup reached a really dangerous level. And that's when capacity really hit home for me, because it occurred in that moment that I was running low and running out of capacity. And when I think about capacity, I think about it like a fuel tank in a car, or better yet, like a fuel gauge, right? So with every interaction that was poor, or where communication and partnership was missed, for every interaction that didn't go as planned, that fuel indicator level got lower and lower. So maybe in January 2024, I was at a near full tank, right? I was coming off the holidays. I'd had time with my family. Fast forward a couple more months. Now I was well below the half tank mark. By the time I reached that imaginary quarter tank mark, I had almost no capacity to take on anything more. And that meant decision making. That meant I really kind of froze, right? I became that cat in the exam room where they can either fight, flee, or freeze. And I was like the classic freeze cat, because everything I needed, I tried to get, but hit brick walls. And I had to push and push and push harder for things I needed until I couldn't push anymore, right? I had nothing left to give. And it was a very lonely time. It was a very dark time, literally and figurative. But it occurred to me in that really dark space what it was like, or what it could be like, how many of my clients probably felt the same way, right? Maybe my clients start the morning off with a half tank of gas, but by the time they chase their cat around the house, they try to cram them into the carrier, they're scratched, they're bitten, maybe they're bleeding, they're frustrated. Now they're running late for the appointment. They hit every red light in town. They finally get to the front desk. It's a packed waiting room. It's loud. There's barking. Their cat's yowling. They get to the front desk. The front desk makes some comment about why are they late. And by the time they actually get to that consult room, they've burned through that fuel. And they may not have time, energy, capacity to hear us. They may feel like it's just too much, it's overwhelming, they can't take on more. And it doesn't mean they can't do X, Y, or Z, whatever we've recommended ever. But it means we really need to have more serious talks about capacity. Is there room for capacity to shift and change? When might a client have capacity again? When are they going to be ready? When could they be willing to take on that diagnostic plan, right? When might they be ready for a conversation about dental health? And I think what I've moved myself towards is being open to hearing from a client, no, not today, no, not now, but quote unquote later, right? And I think sometimes in the past, I only heard no as no. But instead of the no, but, right, thinking about no and, right? Maybe it's no now, but something else could change that no into a yes, or even into a maybe, right? Something as simple as maybe they can't give tablets to their cat. Maybe that's like a endpoint no, never no. Maybe it's something as simple as, can we change up the formulation? Do we do liquid meds? Do we do compounding? Maybe we can give them a way to get to that finish line. And so I think I came full circle. Capacity started with my own personal health crisis that is ongoing, but now I'm starting to realize I'm not the only one that reaches that overwhelmed shutdown point. And I'm realizing just how many people I face in my life, in my day-to-day, that may be at that same empty point. And how do we hear them better? How do we fill that cup instead of empty, empty, empty? A lot of times we're afraid to say no. No, I'm too busy. No, I can't afford it. No, I can't. Because can't sounds really bad, right? It's like, ooh, that means I've just like exhibited a weakness and a vulnerability. Whereas capacity is more of that safe word. And what I love about it is it's multidimensional. It means lots of different things in many different patient-client encounters.
What are the different types of capacity?
Probably one of my best examples of physical capacity challenge would be a client like me, right? A client who can't read a label to decipher instructions. And it's funny because I never thought about that because I took vision for granted for 40 years. And suddenly I can't read anything well, especially not little print or little iPads that we give to the clients a lot of, hey, fill this out. Or we talk to them about a medication, send the medicine home and assume they can read it. For some, it's a literacy challenge. They may not be able to physically read it. For me, physically, I can't read it because of eyesight challenges. And there's a lot of clients out there who have other eye issues, not just mine. So that's one example. Another one from practice that I remember, and I remember it because it was a failure on my part to discuss capacity, was a client with rheumatoid arthritis. And she was okay with medicating her patient, medicating her cat. But what we never talked about was how we would dispense the medicine. And at that practice, we were dispensing everything in child-proof bottles, whether she had children or not. And this person was retired, senior citizen, had no children in the home, but because that's all we had to dispense it, that's what we gave. So I sent them on this collision course for failure because she didn't know it was childproof. She gets home, she's struggling with it. She has no one she can ask. The cat doesn't get its medication. Now she calls up, the cat's no better. I realized, the client didn't give medication, and my gut reaction is, why didn't you give the medicine, right? And your voice, you feel your blood pressure raise and everything. And then she tells me this story, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, I didn't even think about someone who couldn't open the bottle, right? And that led to a conversation of, I can't really do pills, but I could do liquid, or I could do compounded medicine. Other examples of physical capacity would be lifting, right? What if they have a big or large breed or giant breed dog and we're asking them to come frequently to the clinic, but they can't lift the dog in and out of the car? Or maybe the dog has orthopedic issues, maybe the client does, and they can't carry the dog up and down steps to get to the yard or out of the apartment complex. And I think we don't often know about the challenges because we don't ask. And I think we worry about asking without sounding offensive. So a lot of us just keep our mouth shut and hope if someone has something to say, they'll share it. But I'll be honest, from my own perspective, you get tired of sharing it when you hit brick walls, right? So after about 12 doctor appointments of my own where I went in and told them, I'm blind. I had sunglasses on. I had a blind stick. I told them at the front counter, I cannot see. And I still was being given the clipboard or the iPad or the Padlet, right? Hey, fill this out. And you feel like you're talking at air. So eventually I just shut up. And then the problem with that is I don't get my needs shared. They don't know my needs. So it just perpetuates the problem. So physical capacity is a huge type of one. There's also what I like to call temporal capacity. And that means timing, right? Scheduling. Can the caregiver structure their daily routines around what we've asked? Can they manage repetitive tasks? Are they consistently available? If I prescribe eye drops 6 times a day, is that really feasible, right? Or if I prescribe twice daily insulin shots, is that going to happen, right? Does that client's schedule match the need of the patient? And I would say that there's also a big category for emotional capacity too. And what I mean by that is, what's the client's capacity to cope with emotional stress and the psychological demands of being a caregiver? What are their needs, right? And if we don't ask, we don't know. And if we don't know, then we don't always understand what choices they make. They make decisions, right? Every day we task them to make difficult decisions. And sometimes they make a decision and we judge that decision, but we have no idea the struggles or the challenges that are beneath those decisions and the weight the decisions carry. Unless we ask, so really being open to saying, where are you at with caregiving, right? What do you feel about it? How are you now? Do you have support? What does that look like? How do you feel about what else I'm piling on? Is that doable? And giving them the freedom to say yes or no.
How can we help clients feel comfortable sharing their capacity with us during a veterinary visit?
It's really about creating that supportive space, right? And what I mean by that is a space that's rich in psychological safety, right? That gives clients the freedom to share and the feeling that what they have to share will be received readily without judgment. So I'm talking about displaying regard to clients. And that means we really have to beef up that clinic culture. Some of us are really fortunate. We already have that, where there's just this deep connection and everyone's open to everything, and that's fabulous. Sometimes, during times of stress, that clinic culture erodes, right? I've been at practices in the past. I'm not proud of it. I probably contributed to it, where clients get the feeling other clients are talked about in public and in view of others, right? So sounds travel through closed walls. A lot of us forget that we might be having a phone call or talking in one exam room or talking in treatment, and that talk carries through. So clients hear what we say, they remember what we say, they remember how what we said make them feel. And they hear what we say about others, and they watch how we interact with others. They watch, for example, the front staff on the phone or when people check in, and they quickly learn whether the clinic is a safe space and treats individuals with respect, or whether when they hang up the phone, the front staff says something under their breath or aloud to another team member, right? And so if clients find that we're talking about others, then they make the connection very quickly, what's stopping us from talking about them, and they clam up. Well, I think a big thing that I always have to remember, and the same thing is true for me as a faculty member, right? Who's listening, who could be hearing me? How do I model that leadership? So remembering in our own times of stress to take a breath, to decompress what we need to do so that we take that higher ground and we create that psychological safe place so that clients feel they're coming to a sacred place you don't and won't turn your back on, that you'll hear, that you'll listen to. And that means we have regard. It means we kick judgment and leave that at the door. And we accept our clients as they are without comparing them to others, right? Without making them feel bad for what they can or can't do, for what they choose or choose not to do. Those are all really important. And what I'd add to that is acknowledging their concerns, right? When they say, I'm really concerned about X, Y, and Z, that concern may be totally off base. It may not be correct at all. We may know that. But acknowledging, I hear you. I acknowledge that's what you're telling me. That's what's weighing on your mind. Let me help you with that. That's important. And the other thing is to shift how we communicate understanding. I try to now avoid saying, I understand. Because for some clients, that's really helpful. But for most clients, it's the gut reaction of, you don't know who I am. You've never been me. You don't possibly know what it's like to be me. And I've had that go wrong. So instead, I've shifted that to, I can appreciate what you're sharing, I can't possibly understand what it's like to be you. Help me to understand what it's like to be you so I can partner with you to find a way forward. And you often find you get more receptiveness.